Tucker, why don't we start with just the simple one for the people unfamiliar with PERC? Why don't you give us a little bit of better understanding of the organization?
Well, I'm happy to pick up the energy here. So Propane Education and Research Council, I'll call that PERC from now on. We really think about low carbon fuels like propane or renewable propane in a much different way. And I think a lot of people come to the meeting like this and say, well, you're trying to preserve it. And I think that's not at all what we're trying to do. We're thinking about how it's going to fit in to the larger conversation, not tomorrow or next year, but also 30 years from now. And so we really think about safety. Anybody who's touching it, we want them to be safe and know what to do. We think about marketing so people are aware beyond the natural gas mains, developing countries. And then my kind of area of expertise is to think about innovation, technology. What do we need to do to fill the gaps that other fuels cannot do?
Right. And we've heard a lot today about there's no silver bullet, right? There's just a lot of answers to help us progress. So, renewables across the board are, again, we should all be leaning in and looking at all the options, not just a singular option. And you sort of capture that, so congratulations, your new book, Path to Zero, came out yesterday. For everyone who didn't grab one yet, they're out front. Tucker will be signing them later on at the reception. But talk a little about the journey of Path to Zero, right? The book is 3+ years in the making. It's an extension of a podcast you started, a series of interviews you've done. Talk a little about sort of the evolution of the podcast and how it led to the book.
Yeah, it's interesting that there is no silver bullet. I think we're quite sure of that. In fact, we talk often about a wide path. You hear other people talk about all of the above, and I tend to recoil from that. I don't think it is all of the above. I think some technologies will go away, but certainly wide path, something beyond solar and wind and batteries. It really started with the podcast, and if we go back about 4 years ago, it was really to engage in conversations about what was the truth. What was climate science like? What was the role of carbon in the oceans, in the clouds, on the earth, in the trees? What were the technologies that were progressing? What were the technologies that should be dying? And it was just this hodgepodge of for and against and aggressive and passive about the climate conversation, sometimes very against the things that I believed in. And after we had done that a couple years, we started realizing that a narrative was forming, that it wasn't one view. Science wasn't settled, but clearly we were on a path that we needed to get to zero. And so from that, that's how we got to thinking about a book, to tell a story that really wasn't being told. One, I think it's appropriate for today, one of optimism and hope that not only could we do it, we tell the story from 2050. Yes, we did do it. And then really back up into how we did it. The specifics, while we've talked to well over 110 people, I think now, we kind of focused in on 12 people that were particularly memorable, had something particularly strong to say. And that's how we get to the Path to Zero, 12 climate conversations that change the world.
So probably hard to narrow in on the 12 you chose, but over the past 4 years, any sort of key highlights that are most memorable for you over those podcast episodes?
Yeah, a couple. Scott Tinker, who's well known as a geologist, in fact, the Texas State geologist, really understands, I think, mining, minerals, battery materials, probably better than anyone I'd ever met around the world, and had just a completely clear view, I think, of how complex it is to mine, process minerals, and had a famous statement that I'll never forget: the Earth has one atmosphere and a pretty efficient conveyor belt, meaning it really is relevant what we do. It's equally relevant what happens in Beijing or anywhere else in the world. Another one that came to mind is a lady that's become a dear friend now, kind of the dean of nuclear power, if you will, Meredith Angwin, and really kind of opened our eyes to the fragility of the electric grid. But yeah, we could talk for hours about each person is so clear in their own way. And I could add some that we've had podcasts with today.
Right.
Wonderful.
And so podcast starts 4 years ago. We met actually a year ago this week at Climate Week. You were doing a live podcast then. Now looking at the past 12 months, have we made the progress? If you were, sort of rewind to a year ago when we met and what you had hoped to see, at this point, how do you feel about the progress? How do you feel what has changed over the time of sort of meeting all these great people?
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that as we were preparing for what to say today. And with perfect clarity, the conversation has shifted. And I think a lot of us saw it last week when Microsoft finally says, with Constellation Energy, reopen 3 Mile Island. Who would have ever thought 18 months ago that we'd have a conversation about opening 3 Mile Island again, right? And so what we're seeing is the conversation is moving exactly where we thought it would a year ago, but the good news is it's moved. It's broader than sun and wind and batteries. It is about geothermal and hydrogen and efficient internal combustion engines married to the very best hybrid powertrains. It is about heat pumps, or maybe heat pumps married to also backup systems. And so I'm really happy to see the conversation has moved beyond silver bullet, right? Solar, wind, let's hook it up to batteries. That is the only thing that's going to save the climate, to really a broader conversation about multiple technologies, and for once, hard to abate industries, things that we just stuck our head in the sand with 2-3 years ago because we didn't have an idea. And now we have an idea, and more important than having an idea, we're beginning to act.
And we were talking backstage about even things like, obviously, land, earth-based solutions, right? So, you know, the analogy, right? We've gone a couple times, no silver bullet. I've heard 1,000 shots on goal, you know, a bunch of ways that people refer to all the things we could be doing as consumers, as businesses. You know, when you talk to large corporations, you know, as well as probably earlier stage, how do you sort of impart the wisdom of what each organization can be doing to motivate to make these shifts?
Yeah, we talk a lot about collaboration, and we think about government and policy. We think about corporations. We really never talk about consumers. And I think, to me, the missing piece of this equation has been to get consumers on board. You know, we were talking earlier, the group just a few ago, we're talking about how building owners are reluctant to pay a lot more for something that doesn't seem to have tangible benefits to them. We really involve consumers. But I think to your point, for all of that, we're just seeing, for once, industry was always motivated because they had all kinds of metrics to talk about it, and they want to appear to be good for the environment, hopefully because they are in fact good to the environment. But that collaboration has to continue. And that's the whole essence of that book, is that we need to get into a room with people we agree with and people we strongly disagree with.
Right.
And we need to find solutions. And those solutions need to be affordable. That's the one thing that we often don't talk about. But then we need to execute on them. And by the way, it's wonderful to think about shiny objects that are 20 years in the future. Nuclear fusion jumps in your mind when you think about that. Game changer. But a game changer 3 decades out, maybe.
Right. There are things we could do today.
We need to do things today, because what we do today is going to make the difference between whether we get there or not in 2050.
You talked about sort of the economics, right? Obviously, costs are coming way down on certain technologies. We heard about solar. Later on today, we'll be talking about solar in Brazil and the amazing CapEx costs that are coming down. Consumers, obviously, also in times of inflation and higher cost of living, have to make choices and trade-offs.
Right.
How do you think about those economics, right? How do we create incentives for the change in behavior? Right? We've talked about people know they want to lose weight, you know, but they still don't go to the gym more. Same thing with sustainability. People want to be more sustainable, but may not always choose the right path. You know, how do you think about creating those economic incentives at the consumer level? Is there a way to do it?
Well, I think everybody looks, weight loss is probably a great example. I want to go to the gym and take this pill because I want it to happen. They really want to do it the easy way. And I think when we think about solutions that we think are really going to be scalable and actually make a difference, sometimes the first thing we think about is affordability. Well, our experience with consumers, they're not going to pay a lot. Even if they see the benefits are positive, they're not going to pay a lot. And then, by the way, even if it's a wash, they're going to do what they've always done. Just human nature is, I don't really want to make a change. I like my weight right where I am. I'm not going to try to work hard to lose 5 pounds. So when we're thinking about a solution, we have to think about, is it affordable? I talked to DOE a couple months ago now, and they said at the end of my talk, they said, gosh, you talk more about affordability than we ever talk about inside DOE, to which I said, no joke. Right? It's the difference between adopting it and not adopting it. So we think about a great example. We can talk to a fleet, Amazon, UPS, FedEx, a bunch come to mind. we can offer them propane solutions that are half their operating cost. Half their operating cost. Reduced NOx emissions almost 100%. Healthier beyond, you just can't argue it. Better for the climate, 15 to 25%. Yet they will sit there sometimes and look at it because their fleet guys are like, I don't know, I know where the diesel pumps are. It's just, so even with a solution like that offers immediate benefits, financial, environmental, and health, they still stumble sometimes.
Change is hard, right? I think no matter what.
Incredibly hard.
Well, Tucker, so as I mentioned, Tucker's book is out front. He'll be here throughout the day. Please grab a copy of the book. We'll be signing books at the reception. And Tucker, thank you again.
Great. Thanks for being here.